4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'll call the town board meeting for December 16th, 2019 to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Patrick, we have a little, some supplements here, I guess?
Yes, we've added supplements under consent for 5B, 5C. We've also added 5D, a 2020 tobacco license renewal. And then we've also added some additional information for 9G, specific to our electrical inspector services that we did an RFP for about 6 weeks ago.
All right, so that supplement covers some questions we had about the liquor license?
Yes, we also have some clarification in the language when you get to consent agenda, Mr. Chair.
All right, hearing that, do I have a motion to approve the agenda with the supplements?
Move to approve the agenda with the supplements.
I'll second that.
Motion's made second, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is approval for payment of the bills.
Move to approve payment of the bills.
Second that.
Motion's made second, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? And item number 4, I need a motion on the approval of the minutes for December 2nd, 2019.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the December 2nd, 2019 agenda, minutes with no additions or deletions. See what I had there.
I guess I'll second that.
Whatever I said, no second.
Megan will figure it out.
I mumbled through that, but
All right, motion made second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, item number 5 is the consent agenda. We have quite a few of them, but unless someone has an issue with something,
Mr. Chair, if I may, with respect specifically to consent item 5C, the 2020 liquor license renewals, I would ask that the board, in any resolution that you may pass, add the additional language of when all requirements of certificate of liability have been met.
okay. Okay, now that's strictly for liquor license, that doesn't apply to the tobacco license?
Tobacco and liquor.
Okay. Because I noticed we did add Cub Foods.
Yes, that is in your supplement.
Okay. All right, hearing that, unless there's no other objections, I would look for a motion to,
I will move to approve the consent agenda as amended when all required certificate of liabilities have been met for both the tobacco and liquor licenses.
Did you get that, Megan? All right.
have a second on the motion?
I'll second that motion.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, that
Mr.
motion
Chair.
carries. All right, item number 6, we have a water gremlin update.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Board, if, just an FYI, the memo that has been sent to you outlines Water Gremlin's legal requirements that are being met through Department of Labor and Industry, specific to safety requirements regarding lead and their employees. They are going through the building permit process to meet that requirement. They plan on making a presentation to you, the board, specific to that water, or to that building permit, your first meeting in January. So this is just an FYI for you this evening.
Well, that's the January what?
Is that the 4th, I think?
Fourth, I think, yeah.
6th?
Okay.
All right, January 6th. All right, anything else on that one?
Nothing further, thank you.
All right, moving on, item number 7, old business, we have none, so we'll go to item number 8. We have a public hearing for the 2020-1 street improvement project. This is a public hearing, so I would be looking for a motion to waive the reading, noting it's been properly published.
I'll move based that it's properly published of a hearing notice in newspaper and waive the reading of the notice.
I'll second that.
Motion's made, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? And then I would look for a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll move to open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? All right, Larry, are you going to take this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and town board members. On December 4th, we held a neighborhood meeting, and I have a few copies of that presentation in the back. I'm going to just touch on the high points of that meeting, And it's also in your agenda packet for the board members. We are looking to do improvements to the southeast area, Phase 1, which includes the neighborhood between South Shore Boulevard and County Road F. We're looking to do that, neighborhoods to the south of that neighborhood in subsequent years. We prepared a feasibility study for the neighborhood, including reviewing the soil conditions, the conditions of the streets, as well as took questionnaires that we sent out to the public and used that to prepare the feasibility study. The high points that we're recommending for this project, we're recommending kind of a hybrid rehabilitation / reconstruction project where we grind up the existing asphalt and base material and reuse that material for the new street improvements. We are looking to add concrete curb and gutter to the neighborhood. Specifically, we're recommending surmountable curb and gutter, which is drive-over type curb for the neighborhood due to the narrow streets in this neighborhood, as well as to minimize some of our soil export costs. We're looking to add storm sewer, extending storm sewer from specific points on Lakewood and Arbor to better accommodate the drainage for the neighborhood. We are also looking at street width reductions as well as increasing in the street width. We're recommending the street width for Lakewood, Homewood, and Arbor Drive be increased from the 25-foot width to a 28-foot width to better accommodate emergency vehicle access when vehicles are parked on both sides of the road. Those roadways are more of the main roadways in and out of that neighborhood. For Ralph's Street, which is the only dead end in this neighborhood, we're recommending a reduction from 30 feet to 28 feet. We did hear some feedback at the neighborhood meeting from an individual that they weren't in favor of that reduction. The other streets in the neighborhood are left at the same width due to right-of-way, limited right-of-way, or shorter driveways. We're looking at some geometric changes. We're trying to engineer these roadways to meet current standards, squaring up intersections at the county roadways, meeting 30-mile-an-hour design guidelines for engineering the roadway. We're also, as well as the storm sewer, we're also looking at a rain garden program for those that might be interested in a rain garden in their yard. Rain gardens are basically a depression off the curb. We put a curb opening in along the street and direct drainage to the rain garden. It's planted with specific plants that can handle the stormwater. And so if people are interested in that type of amenity, it does require some maintenance, but once it's established, the maintenance is pretty standard of any type of landscaped area. Again, it's a voluntary program for those that might be interested. I do have a sign-up sheet here for those that might be interested, and we can evaluate whether your property is a good candidate. This is in combination with, or partnership with Rice Creek Watershed District, as well as Ramsey County, and so there's a funding aspect from them, and they'd be looking at properties that are not on the top of the hill, more on the way down the hill, or down the slope of a roadway, or it wouldn't probably work for properties that are very steep coming to the road. But in certain cases, it might be a good amenity for both the property owner that might have a green thumb, and helping with the stormwater drainage for the area. Moving on to project costs, we are estimating just over $3 million for this project. We kind of, because we haven't designed it yet, we kind of tended to shade on the higher side for both our quantities and our unit pricing, just because we haven't bid the project yet and we haven't designed it. So hopefully the costs when we get bids would be less than that. Of that $3 million, or $500,000 is paid by other funds, like the water fund for valve and water or hydrant replacement, sanitary fund for any castings that need to be adjusted, and then a lot of it comes out of a lot of that $500,000 comes from the stormwater fund, which extends the sewer, or extends the storm sewer for the area. The remaining $2.5 million is divided between both assessments and the township component. And so we are recommending an assessment rate of $11,000 per unit. This would be a unit assessment. We're proposing a unit assessment where every property is assessed the same amount, 1 unit, whether they live on a corner lot or not. Corner lots on the county road, however, are only assessed a half a unit because they have frontage along the county road. And the assessment policy states that corner lots are assessed 1/2 for each side that is improved. So if only one side is being improved, it's a half a unit. But all other properties on this neighborhood are assessed the 1 unit. The $11,000 is recommended because we believe the benefit for this project per property equates to that $11,000 figure. If this project moves forward, we're recommending a 10-year assessment period for that $11,000, so it's divided over those 10 years at a interest rate that's undetermined yet, but last year's rate for the 2019 street project was 3.5%. The schedule, moving forward on the schedule, tonight is the public hearing where we take input from the public on the project itself, as well as feedback on specific elements. After that, when the plans are completed, or mostly completed, we would have another meeting with the neighborhood to show the plans and how the project affects each specific property. We will have cross-section to show how the slope of your driveway will work after the project, and driveway as well, which is important for you to see how the project is going to affect you. After that, we would put the project out for bid, and sometime in March, receive bids to present to the board. We'll have a better idea on the cost, and we'll have a better cost breakdown at that time, and the board can consider those bids for award, and then spring construction. Later on in the process, we would have a assessment hearing where, when the final costs are tallied, we will have either the same rate or a different rate for the assessment at that time, and there's an open public hearing for that as well. So those are kind of the high points for this project. At this point, it'd be appropriate to take public testimony, and I could answer either questions from the board now or questions from the individuals that approach and offer testimony.
Scott, anything?
I think I've asked a lot of questions of them already, so I'm good.
Steve?
I would agree with that. We've had lots of discussions on this topic already.
The only thing I'd want to know, Larry, is how well you're staying informed with Ramsey County on this, because of obviously the county road we're butting up to, so, have you heard yet what are they getting closer to a timeline on their portion of it or not?
Well, there's two things there. We're abutting County Road F, and we're abutting South Shore Boulevard. In talking with Ramsey County, they do not have a timetable yet for any improvements on South Shore Boulevard. And in fact, they are resurrecting that discussion very soon, but they don't have any answers for us on that project yet. On County Road F, we heard at one point that they might be doing improvements next year at the same time we're doing our project, but now I've learned that they are not doing that project next year, and it'd be a future year.
Is the Lake Links Trail kind of dictating what they do there, or are they waiting for that?
I think they're gonna reopen kind of the whole concepts, all the concepts, so.
All right, any other questions, Larry?
Well, the fact that we're doing these improvements now, whenever they do make their improvements, they would have to adjust to what we've already done.
Right.
Okay.
All right, hearing no other questions, I would look for a motion to open up for public comment.
I'll move to open the public comment portion.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, anyone who would like to speak to this, if you please come to the podium, state your name, your address, and then we'll do the best we can to answer your problems.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Dennis Welsh. I live at 2644 Arbor Drive. I come with a maybe an unusual comment. Yes, we really want this. Our neighborhood, or our portion of the neighborhood, has seen some pretty rough roads. And one of my neighbors told me this afternoon that he almost lost a white dog in one of the holes. So, but it's time, and we thank you for considering this site and for making it your first renovation project in many years, as I understand it. I also wanted to take just a moment to thank you for going through the road improvement program that you did this past year. That was really informative, and it helped me understand just how bad our roads were by comparison to some of the others, and I'm hoping that those benefits will be passed on to succeeding neighborhoods because of now you've got the information. One thing I would like to ask that, and I've been through a number of these types of programs before, that staff and Larry really concentrate from our perspective on communications. It's so important to know when something is coming along in terms of when the start and stop of the construction is, when the mailboxes are moved, if they are moved, when the driveways will be cut off, when they won't. So if there could be something created on the township website, or use one of the other email services, it'd be wonderful to get more rather than have to guess about it. And finally, I am concerned about stormwater, and I do want to be part of your rain garden concept. I will want to know more about it, Larry, and particularly about, we're on a hill, so how much of the salt, I don't really want all the salt. Thank you.
Well, just in response, the township has been working on this for a couple of years now. We've been kind of kicking it down the road, and it's just come to a point where we have to address this. I know it's some sticker shock for all of us, but we can't put this off any longer. We're way past due. And when it comes to rain gardens, I know Velamo is part of White Bear Township, and so is Rice Creek Watershed. They do a lot of cost sharing, which means they go out for grants, and depending on what it is, it could be a 25%, 50% cost share. So it is an advantage for somebody who's looking to do rain gardens to at least pursue that avenue. But we appreciate it. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'd like to make a general comment on communication. You know,
sorry, yeah.
that has been one of our key things in the projects we did in 2019. I think the residents in general would say that the communication process was very, very good. We do put it on our website, and we do want to keep the public informed, and I think they went overboard to make sure everybody was kept current as to where the projects were going. So I think that's a key item. I agree with you.
All right, anyone else?
Mr. Fisher, 2688 Arbor Drive in the township. I too want to thank the board for going forward with this project. It's been a long time coming, and it should be really nice when it's done. I just had a couple of questions from our last meeting. Some things were brought up that I just didn't have a chance to digest, and I was looking at. The one is on the widening of the roads. 4 of the 8 roads that are proposed to be improved were going to be widened from 25 to 28 feet. And I think, Larry, you mentioned that because of that, there were some concerns about grading. If we go wider, it's going to cause some problems on grading, if you will. I'm thinking mostly of Arbor Drive, which is the main road running through there. I question whether it's necessary, and maybe you can help me with this, to widen the roads. And the reason being is that I know you said it was for the emergency vehicles. I've lived there for 38 years. Most of the people that live on that street have a driveway where most of the vehicles are parked. The only time that vehicles are parked on the street are maybe for somebody that's visiting for a short period of time, or a service vehicle to drop off mail or what have you. Very seldom have I seen, 30 cars parked on the street. At night, there's hardly no cars there. So I don't see that as a real threat for an emergency vehicle coming through there. I still think they can. And I think the downside might be that it's going to cost more because we're adding 3 feet of materials and labor, if you will, on that whole stretch. Plus, there's going to be more excavation and whatever else. So unless there's reasons that I'm not aware of as it relates to the storm drainage, I wonder if we can relook at that and determine if it's really necessary. If our only reason is emergency vehicles, and I don't think we've ever had a complaint from any of our emergency people, if you will, to that extent, I guess I'd like to look at that. That might drive down our costs a little bit.
Larry, have you discussed that with Dale Reed, Public Works Director, or not?
Well, he's been part of the process
But I
all
mean,
along,
is
but-
it also something to do with snow removal or for plowing in general, or not?
The main factors was that access
Okay.
and parking. One of the questionnaires, there was a lot of concerns about parking in the neighborhood. And so it would allow for a larger roadway for parking.
Well, the widening of that road, I mean, we haven't cast that in stone yet, have we? It's still up for
No.
consideration. So,
Yes. We haven't looked at everything. It may not even be possible, but we would like to tonight and to kind of know what the consensus is about moving forward with a street width, so we can determine if we're moving forward with the 28 feet or if we're going to keep it the way it is.
Yeah, because we don't want to redo the engineering costs on the
No.
streets, yeah.
I mean, as stated a few minutes ago, Arbor is the main road through there, so.
Well, it is and it isn't.
Well-
We're bordered by County Road F and North
True.
Shore Drive.
But in the area that we're talking about, that is somewhat of the main, all the other ones kind of feed off of Arbor.
Or County Road.
Or County Road F, or South Shore Boulevard. I
Drive,
got
yeah.
you that way. And so to go with what you're saying, we do want to have as much room for parking and public safety as possible. So I'm not saying we're 100% committed to it, but
Right.
maybe in your consideration.
Well, another issue was that we wanted to maintain, I think, 30-mile-an-hour roadway through there, which I don't think is possible, simply because even the township put up a stop sign halfway onto Arbor Drive a year or so ago to slow the traffic down. One of the residents, because they have children, didn't want cars speeding through there. And because we have several turns on that road, very difficult to get up to 30 miles an hour. So I don't think that's a reasoning for widening them either. And as again, I've lived there for 38 years, and I've never noticed a parking problem. I guess I'd have to ask the audience if they recognize that as a parking problem.
Yeah, some of the it's also, if there's no sidewalks there, correct?
True.
So in the world we are in today, more people want to have access along the roadways for walking and things. So you start restricting, you start getting yourself in a box on providing avenues for public to use also. And those are, again, those roads all go down to South Shore Boulevard. So if there are people that want to use that for walking, the wider gives them a little more safety also, so.
Well, I guess you could always argue that point.
Yeah.
But as I point out, we've not had a problem in all the years I've lived here, so. But anyway, I I guess I would like to have you consider that. If the board just definitely wants to enlarge them, then I guess that's the way we'll go.
Well, Larry, that'll come up during the feasibility report, knowing maybe it's not even a possibility, or...
During the design process, yes, we would like to go away from here knowing which way we should approach it.
Well,
It's from, is it necessary? Like Mr. Fisher says, it's been that way for forever, but we just saw some benefits for those main arteries for those parking, access, and pedestrians, so.
Sure. Well, again, as you point out, there's a lot of the yards come right down it very steeply, so there's going to have to be a lot of grading to bring that up.
So either way, the neighbors will all be kept in the loop as we proceed along with this, so.
Sure, okay, that'd be fine. Other question I had then was, well, I'm sorry, did you finish with that, or?
Yeah.
As far as going forward?
Yeah.
Okay. The other one I had, just a clarification, we're looking at a 3 million plus project. The street improvements alone are about 2.4 million, which is just for the, you know, the actual construction. And we've got indirect costs here of about 610,000, of which it looks as that's engineering and city administration. How does that break down? In other words, that seems like a lot of money for engineering, $600,000 for the street. Granted, we have sewer and water and so forth, and then we have city administration. So how does that break down? I mean, how much of this is engineering? It seems, I mean, that's 25% of the whole cost of the project. Is that reasonable? I don't know.
Yeah, it's typically an industry standard, the 25%, and it's between 18 and 20% is engineering, and then inspection. We have a person out there during construction to make sure things are being built properly.
Okay.
The rest is for bonding costs and administration costs.
Okay.
So between 5 and 7% is that amount for the bonding and administration.
Okay. So
That's
the board,
typically
the
the
board is
industry standard.
satisfied with that then?
Well, we're getting pretty familiar with that number, because every time we do one of these projects, that's where they always fall.
Are they?
Maybe our engineers just charge too much, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I don't know.
As an aside, you know, the inspections while these projects are going on is so critically important, because we've found in the past, when they've taken some samples of past projects, way in the past, there's been discrepancies in how much they've asked our bituminous on there,
Right.
where if you don't watch it, you can get taken advantage of, and so it's important to have that piece covered, so.
Oh, I agree. But
I-
the overall cost,
Yeah.
this is a very expensive project, and so it's just a question of if that's what it is, that's what it is. But I just bring it up because I noticed it was a large part of the whole project.
Yeah, and I will say, we just used a percentage. Now, construction costs have outpaced engineering costs, so I would say that number is high as well.
Okay, very good. I also brought this up last time regarding the bidding of the project. And I said, how many bids are we going to get from contractors? And I think the statement was, well, at least one. And I guess I recognize bidding periods are difficult, especially in the spring as to when people are bidding. But I would propose that we at least have 3 bids. And the reason I say that is because one bid doesn't give you, you know, it's a competitive nature out there. You know, and unless we have a contractor that we've worked with, you know, before, and we trust him to give us a fair price, I think we should bid it. One bid isn't enough, obviously. 2 bids isn't really enough either, because you've got a high and a low, and the spread doesn't really tell you where you are. If you have 3, then you've got usually 2 that are relatively close together, and one is an outlier going one way or the other. So I would highly recommend that we have at least 3 bids.
Well,
Now, you may say, well, we go out for bids and we only get 1. Well,
It's our
there's a
board,
lot of
it's the board's
contractors.
prerogative just to reject that, and then we start all over and go back out for bids again, too. If we only get 1, and if it's out of our range, we reject it.
Yeah.
And-
What
and
if it is within your range?
We've had as many as 10 people, or 10 companies bid on certain things, and then again, we struggle getting anybody bidding on it.
Yeah.
If the market's really good and people are really busy, then all of a sudden the numbers keep coming in a little bit higher, too, because they are busy. So,
Mr. Chair, I'm pretty confident that we'll get at least 3. Last year,
Okay.
we bid our first phase project right in the middle of the construction season. It was in the summer, and we got
Okay.
2. The plan is for this year is to start more late winter, early spring.
Okay.
And I'm, like I said, I'm pretty confident we'll get 3 or more.
And that's why we try to keep on schedule to get this thing out early,
Yeah.
Yeah.
before the heart of the season shows up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, good. I've been in architecture and bidding projects, and I just know that it's just more advantageous to get more is better than fewer. And then the only other thing I have, and I'll let everybody go, is just on the clarification of the funding for the project. We're having assessments of $11,000 per unit, which is 144 units, which is the 1 million, 1.25 million of the assessments. The other funds are covered through township funds, bonding, which is 1.26, water fund 35.9, sanitary fund 10.4, storm fund 489, and that gets us to that $3 million number. The reality is, we're paying more than the 11,000. And I just want that to, because in reality, we as residents pay for the water fund, the sewer fund, and these other funds as well. So looking at that, we're looking, you should really be dividing the 3 million by 114 units, meaning that the actual cost to us is somewhere around $26,000, $27,000 per unit. Now, maybe I'm misunderstanding something here, but the funds that you're drawing from are funds that were taxed to us as part of our
But
annual.
Not
you gotta
just
under-
you, but
yeah.
all the residents.
Right, all the
11,000
residents are paying into those funds.
That's
though, so
true,
it's-
that's true.
So it becomes a much less per unit cost.
Except for if you continue, the next year you do another road, and then another road. Eventually, everybody's paying in, the number will eventually hit the 26.7.
Well, but eventually too, this is a major project where the roads are fully total reconstruction, where a lot of them now in the next rounds are only gonna be, mill and overlay, so that changes the price.
Okay.
So it sounds like you're wanting to hear more, what's the full cost?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to undercut your.
Right,
your-
but
I
you
just
wanna
want
know-
to, because a lot of people, and I'm not one of them, but a lot of people are very concerned about the overall cost of this thing. And there's a lot of people that are on fixed
I
incomes,
think we were very concerned as
you
well.
know. And so I just like to be upfront with the cost so that they know what we're paying for. That's all. So again, I don't want to cause you a problem here, but I think it is an issue that probably should be addressed at some point in time. And maybe it can be in the next meeting.
So if I'm hearing you right, though, it's more what the fully loaded cost would be, not just what you're writing a check for, but really all the incidental pieces.
Yeah, and not to belabor that, but I think it's important to know, you talked about this of causing appreciation for our properties on $11,000. Well, in reality, it's more than that. So,
I guess you could say that for all the residents of the township, because...
Absolutely.
Or in the county, because if a county does a project, all the residents pay for it, all the residents of the county. You may not get a statement for it, but you're going to see it ultimately in the county portion of your tax bill.
that's true, but I'm talking about the township portion.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. The other part was, Larry, this past year, we had our estimate as to the road improvement project, and we came in above, below, right at?
Yes, we were learning from that experience.
All right.
We were, it was 10% higher than our engineer's estimate.
Okay.
So
So.
there was a lot of projects after that were 30% higher than engineers' estimates across the metro for projects. So that's part of why we're using those higher numbers, because the market right now is just a lot of projects. So hopefully we bid this early enough, we get a better price.
Okay,
All right.
okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else?
I'm 100% behind this project also.
I'm sorry, name and address?
Oh, Phil Carpentier, Arbor Drive, right on the County Road F and Arbor Drive, 2697.
Okay.
And I'm 100% behind it. And you already answered one of my questions about County Road F, because when I go to the Ramsey County things, they were going to build that road, and I thought we were going to all work together. So I only have one mess. Now I'm going to have one now and then another one. Okay, but anyway. it's
Well, every time
delayed.
we ask, we always get a window of like 5 years.
Okay. The second one is you got to help me out, because my wife and I know people in North St. Paul that have just had curbs and roads put in, and North St. Paul roads put in. I don't have a trouble with 11, but my wife wants me to ask this. They're all talking about 5,000 to 6,000. And I know my sister lives in the township, and a few years ago you did their road. It's on the west side of Goose Lake, out in that area. And she said she thought she only paid around 5. So my wife wants to know, why are we paying 11 when North St. Paul and these others seem to be paying a lot less?
That would be a hard question for apples to apples. I would have no idea what kind of projects they're doing.
Well, it's the concrete curbs and the asphalt. Pretty much, it looks pretty much the same.
But it depends if it was there to start with, if it's total reconstruction, if they're
It was total.
recycling, if they're adding storm, and there's so many.
And then there's the policy part of that, where they might have certain policies of assessing a
Get more money
lower
from the big-
percentage.
The part of the problem is the township doesn't get any LGA state funding, where a lot of communities like North St. Paul, City of White Bear, they get anywhere from $500,000 to $1.5 million to throw into their funds for projects, just something like this. We don't have that. We get, what, $17?
14?
$14.
14, that's it.
Well, anyway,
But trust me, we're working on that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's great to be, Mr. Carpentier, you have tell your wife that there is another hearing, and that's called the assessment hearing, where the amount of the assessment has to equal more benefit to the property in the amount of $11,000. So this board has been very good at listening, but you'll have an opportunity. The purpose of this hearing is what we call feasible and necessary, and what are the costs, and a reasonable amount of the assessments. So at the next hearing, come to it, and if you believe your property hasn't been improved to the amount of $11,000, that's a question that will become before the.
well, I personally am 100% behind this, but
It's
it's just I got to answer the
No,
boss.
I'm trying to help you. If she's watching TV, you can say, I'm trying to help you there. So,
Okay, well, thanks.
yeah, and different cities have different rates and different types, so.
Okay.
Good evening, my name's Michael Faust. I'm at 2661 Arbor Drive, and I think like the rest of our neighbors, this sounds like a great project to update the neighborhood. I would echo that I think a narrower road to keep things slow would be great. Yeah, we just threw in a stop sign up there for that very concern, so that's all I'll say about that. You already have enough feedback. And then my only suggestion, frankly, with all of our opinions on this, let's keep projects moving. That usually does save time, energy, and money. And so make decisions, move on. We'll get over it at some point if we disagree. So I think that would probably be the most effective way to make sure we get a good road and do it cost effectively. So anyway,
Thank you.
thanks for your
Thank
work.
Hello, I'm Denise Sayer, and we own property at 4194 Homewood. This is our daughter Carly, who's planning on taking over the property over the next year. That's why she's here with us. And we're looking forward to the improvements. We also really admire the quaintness and history that White Bear has. I think it's something really unique, especially in the northern part of the Twin Cities. And on that note, we have somewhat of we consider it a bit of a historic retaining wall that isn't very probably efficiently positioned and will be removed because it's going to be in that area. There are also a number of other homes around us that have similar walls, and they're just a cobblestone technique, but very cute and quaint. And so we're wondering if there's going to be any consideration for building maybe a little bit of that character back in some of those areas where it's removed. And we're looking forward to working with you to maybe come up with some ideas on that.
Larry, you kind of familiar with
yeah.
what she's talking about?
Yes, we've had a discussion
We've
about.
talked, and
about
I'm just
that
kind of
wall.
officially here making the comment, and I guess we feel somewhat passionate about it, so.
Can we address those at another time?
Has there been any discussion or in the planning process, have you worked through any of the aesthetics part, or is it pretty much curb,
On the
lawn?
On the aesthetic side, normally, a replacement for a wall is usually a modular block type wall, which is,
Not very much character in that.
yeah.
How about cobblestone?
We could look at boulder walls.
Boulder walls, or I've noticed on 96, Highway 96, where it looks like similar things have been done, where they've done a really nice job with a cobblestone paver. It looks like it was kind of the standard maybe. But just looking forward to discussing that, and wanted to get that issue request
Well, I think as the
topic out there.
feasibility study goes along, they're gonna know more of what's gonna be destroyed or taken down and what's gonna be replaced. So right now, there's, might be some question as to how much and where and when, and
Right.
so we're getting there. We're not quite there yet, so.
Right. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have to do something different than what's there. I mean, it's quite obvious, and understand the reasoning behind it. I'm just hoping that we can work something out, maybe work together, because we have a bit of a unique area as you move into the driveway, where there's a little stairway, and doesn't necessarily have to be there, but it's cute. But maybe if we removed it and widened the entrance, it might help the project, and maybe we could do something around the curve to maybe build a little bit of that back in, maybe not have the whole wall there, but that kind of stuff. And there are a number of other homes down the block there that have similar features, and it just looks really neat. So,
The township would try to be sensitive to all the neighbors' concerns, so.
yeah,
And at that next open house where we have the plans, we will be able to show how it's affecting
Sure.
those features.
okay.
And then we could get your preference on, from a cost perspective, the modular block and the boulder are pretty close. But when you get into more of a cast in place,
Okay.
that's a lot costlier,
Okay.
costlier, so.
And that's understandable, and boulders are great. I mean, that's what's there now, and so that's kind of why we ask,
So we can kind of get your preference at that meeting,
Okay,
and we can see how it's impacting the property.
sure. All right, well, that was all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
Yeah, I'm Brent Mason, 2660 South Shore Boulevard. It's on the corner of Summit. And we just bought that home in July, so we're new to White Bear Township. We're excited about the project. Is it 100% sure that it will happen this year?
Next year.
Or 2020?
Well-
It's a for sure.
Well, and like I said, unless the bids just come in astronomically too high.
Great, that's good. Question about this, where the storm sewers, where will they tie into?
They tie in on Arbor and on County Road F.
Okay,
So along South Shore, there's more of a ditch
Yep.
that we'd beaver tail the curb down, and they would spill off into the ditch system.
okay. My understanding is that ditch system doesn't drain today.
Yeah, and I've had conversations with the county about how do they want us to handle that?
Right.
And until they improve South Shore Boulevard, it kind of is what it is. We're not going to be putting in storm sewer along South Shore Boulevard with this project because they have plans to do some improvements in the future to that area, and those investments would be lost.
Yep. So that was, you partially answered that question earlier. If this was gonna be tied to South Shore, that is some of this money, as, let's say, Summit's redone, and then in 2021 or 22, they come in and tear it up, to do South Shore, and then we get assessed again to fix it, what they did.
They'd be tying into, yeah, what we do.
Okay, so you wouldn't be double dipping if they came back and tore up something and,
Usually the county road improvements are funded, aren't assessed,
okay,
so.
okay. I
Right.
hope it goes through. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
Hi. Thanks for your time and all your hard work on this. Jan Barnes, and I am at 4223 Homewood Avenue. So a couple of little things that I've listened to tonight and have, because I came in for one other reason, but in consideration of the widening of the roads to allow for more parking or for emergency vehicles, have we ever considered that we just do not allow parking on one side of the street or the other? Because I've only been here 3 years, but I haven't noticed that there's a huge amount of parking that needs to happen on the streets. So would it be more cost-effective to keep the streets at the width that they are and just absolutely no parking along one side of the street? Because again, I think I'm in agreement with a lot of you that, do we want a full 30-mile-per-hour drive? Because as it dumps onto Homewood, people come speeding around that corner. And even though my little neighbors have moved out now, I was kind of petrified for their lives if they got stuck in the street while somebody came ripping around the corner to go. But maybe some kind of a speed deterrent, some speed, not necessarily the big bumps, but just humps, I guess they call them, so that it slows the
Township doesn't like
traffic
doing
down.
that. The township doesn't care for doing speed bumps. But it's just not parking, obviously. As Steve said, it's safety for pedestrian walking, it's emergency vehicles. If there are vehicles parked there, you gotta have at least room to get by. There's a number of things that go into consideration.
Yeah.
If it's available to widen it, the town preference is to get it a little bit wider, just so we're not looking at this 10 years down the road and having somebody say, why didn't you widen it?
What is the standard road width that you typically try to aim for? Is it 28?
No, it's-
I've actually reduced a lot of streets to the 28. It's something that's worked really well that I've seen in other communities.
But normally, don't we normally stay around 30?
Normally, street standard is 30 to 32.
Okay. And then I guess the other thing, and maybe this goes back to the assessment hearing that Pat informed us about tonight, but I guess the question I had for all of you was, in the fact that we're being assessed by units, not by lots or by linear footage, and how we arrive at that conclusion, given the fact that I've got maybe a 30-foot lot, the guy across the street has maybe 65 to 70 feet. And then the people that, sorry for those that live on the corners, but they live on the South Shore, but yet their lots and their driveways are coming in off of Homewood or one of the side streets that are being improved. And they maybe take up an additional lot behind that I would be, or the smaller lots, any of the smaller lots are assessed at the same rate as what somebody that has a double or maybe a 2.5 size lot, and why we're doing it the way we are per unit versus linear footage per lot.
Yes, I can answer that.
Okay.
So these are all kind of residential, all residential lots. There's certain projects that you might have a commercial property, industrial property, and residential mix or apartment. In those cases, it's more where you'd use a linear footage, in my experience, use a linear footage or an area assessment for those type of properties because you have different types of properties. In this case, all the properties in this neighborhood are residential properties. Now, in the life cycle of a family, you might have just one driver, you might have two, but as you get teenagers, you might have 3 drivers, and your neighbor next to you might only have 1. But over the life cycle of a home, you're eventually that home is going to turn over, and it might have 4 or 5 drivers. it equates evenly over the life of everything to have a unit assessment for this, because it's used, you have one access to the roadway, and it's used by a residential family.
Yes, no, and I understand that, but again, you're going back to a house that sits on a double lot, probably has 4 or 5 bedrooms, versus the house that's on the smaller lot that has 2, maybe 3 bedrooms. Are they going to have the same size family over the lifespan? So there would be less wear and tear coming out of the smaller units. And I base this off of my previous life. I was a condo dweller. And in the condo development, all of our assessments and all of our association fees were based by square footage, because they calculated that somebody that lives in the 4,000 square foot unit is going to have more people living in it, so they're going to go through more water, more utilities, more drivers going in and out, so more wear and tear and maintenance coming from the larger units than it is the smaller units. So I guess that's kind of where I was questioning, should we not be looking at that?
And that gets into
Well.
additional detail that, I mean, you could have a home on a large lot that only has 2 bedrooms. I mean, it's more detail than we can even get into with trying to determine what's your square footage of a property, of the dwelling. It just gets into more minutia that further complicates an assessment than it really needs to be.
Okay, so the person that has the $500,000 house should pay the same as the person with the $200,000.
We're still using the same road.
But only one of them versus 2. So, and I'll just leave that with my thoughts and my impressions, because again, I know you want to hear what we all have to say, and I think there would be a lot of people in the community as well that would feel the same way. So, thank you.
Right, thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, seeing none, I'll look for a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, any further discussion with Larry? Patrick, do you have anything to add?
I think the engineer, thank you, Mr. Chair, the engineer, do you have to tackle that width problem tonight, or? Yeah, that's what I heard him say, that he needed some direct, I'm not speaking for you, so you tell them.
It would be nice to hear from the board what their if we want to start with the 28-foot or just want to roll with a lower, or a reduced width.
Scott? What's your opinion?
Would there be a meaningful difference in the price,
No.
Okay, and
Because you're just still doing curb on both sides. It's a 3-foot difference on several of the streets. I wouldn't say it'd be a drastic improvement
it
in,
would be less
it'd be less.
asphalt,
less
bituminous,
asphalt, yep.
but it'd be the same amount of concrete. Same engineering, or would there be a difference in engineering, or anything else that, or base?
A little more engineering with the wider street, because we're having to fit it with streets that are of a smaller width.
Well, those were, I guess, those were my questions.
Steve?
Well, if the standard width is 30, and we're trying to get somewhere in between, in case of Homewood, 25 to 28, I think we need to go with the wider roads, because we have other areas, all we hear about is that we were a resort community and our roads are too narrow. And where possible, this is the time to do it. If we're gonna go through the expense and energy of redoing these roads, they should be as best as they can for the future, and the future is a wider road. I'd prefer the wider road.
So you prefer the wider road?
I'm not going to argue against it.
Yeah.
Just curious, my main question was, would there be a meaningful difference? And I'm
He says
basing
no.
it on your experience in doing this.
I guess too, Larry, if it gets down to it where budget constraints or for some reason it's just gonna get caught, then we can always decide to take that out, but I think we should proceed with it, trying to put it in. So you're hearing a consensus from the board that way. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, thank you.
All right. So you're looking for, are there any other questions or comments? All right, then you're looking for a motion to adopt the resolution for ordering the improvements for 2020-1.
Based on the town engineers and staff review and recommendation, I'll move to adopt the resolution ordering improvement 2020-1.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, thank you, everyone, for your comments, and trust me, we hear them loud and clear.
Boy.
Mr. Chair, can I just state once again, for the rain garden program, I think I heard one person at least that might be interested. If you're interested at all, it doesn't commit you to sign up to have us take a look at it. And if you're seeing this on television, you can call me at 651-292-4457 or email me at Larry, Larry, .poplar, POPPLER, @tkda.com. If you're interested at all in having us take a look at whether a rain garden might fit on your property. Thank you.
All right, move on. Item number 9, we have some finance officers items. Tom?
Just a few. The first one is a resolution that you're being asked to adopt that will reduce the tax levy for our bonds. When we issued the bonds in 2019 for the street projects, there were different parts, similar to what we were just discussing, where there were assessments, township share, and then different parts for the utilities. When the bonds were issued, the parts that were there for the utilities was also, the only way they could show it in the bonding documents was to show it as a tax levy, and we do not need to levy for that as we have the funds in the water fund, the sanitary sewer fund, and the storm sewer. So the resolution before you is taking our debt levy from $85,194.35 and reducing it by $19,802.35, and so we'll have the debt levy of $65,392. That was part of the tax levy that was voted on last Tuesday at the special town budget meeting.
Steve, any questions?
I have no questions.
Nope.
Only that the resolution, should that state for the 2020 tax levy?
It's the, no, it will actually just reduce the levy.
Okay. All right, hearing no other discussion, looking for a motion on the resolution.
I'll move based on staff review and recommendation, adopt the resolution reducing tax levy pursuant to Minnesota statute, section 475.61.
I'll second that.
Motion's made second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. All right, let's see, 8B, we have the raised property taxation.
No, we have the property tax levy. As you know, we started our levy back at the annual meeting in March, where residents established the amount, the highest amount that we could levy for. We reduced it and had a lower levy that was sent to the county in September that was used in the tax notices, and since then we've reduced it further. And so last week at the annual town budget meeting, we presented a levy for 2020 of $3,662,778, and that's made up of the general operating property tax of $3,293,500, our fiscal disparities of $303,866, and then that debt levy that we just passed of $65,392. And so once again, you're asked to adopt the resolution for the amount to be collected for 2020 taxes.
Steve, you got anything?
Nope.
Nope.
Obviously, the board's been reviewing this for most of the year, so I think we beat it to death. Hearing no other discussion, do I have a motion?
I'll move based on the staff review and recommendation, adopt the resolution, adopting the amount to be raised by property taxation for the year 2020.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. The next one is the 2020 CIP.
All right, again, this is something that you've been reviewing for some time as we've gone through the budget process. Each year, we develop part of our 10-year CIP, or Capital Improvement Program. The items listed in 2020 are included in our 2020 budget, and the items that are in 2021 through 2029 are there kind of as a place marker and can be changed. All the purchases for 2020 that are listed still have to go through our normal purchasing policy and get board approval. There is one change that I found this morning that we forgot to delete out, and that is in the water fund, out of the capital equipment. We still have the water truck listed there for 2020, and seeing they just bought it, I don't think we're going to buy another one next year. So I need to remove that, but other than that, before you is the summary of the CIP in your handout material, and we're looking for the board to adopt our 10-year CIP.
And obviously, this is still kind of a work in motion, because some of this stuff can be moved around.
It can be moved around, as I said. All the items that are in the CIP still need to go through the normal purchasing policy. Depending on the cost of the item, they either need to get bids or quotes, and then it has to go through town board approval and so forth. So it's always something that can be pushed off or moved up. And as I said, the stuff in the from 2021 to 2029 are really there just as placeholders, as we think of items that when the trucks will wear out, when street improvement projects will take place, and so forth.
I mean, I know we've been trying to get restrooms at Polo Lakes Park for
A while.
so
For a while.
that number bounces pretty good.
Well, we have restrooms, we just want permanent restrooms versus porta potties.
All right, any other questions of Tom on the CIP?
No.
Again, we reviewed this and pretty much tried to massage it as best we can to fit into the program, so, do I have a motion for, where am I?
You can do it.
Yep.
Based on staff review and recommendation, approve the 2020 to 2029 Capital Improvement Plan, or CIP.
Second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries.
Next is adopting the 2020 budget. This was presented to the residents last Tuesday at the special town budget meeting. We're looking for you to adopt, I think it's a resolution that's in here. I guess it's not in here. But we're asking you to adopt the budget, the general fund budget as recommended by the residents last week. Is proposed at $4,488,213, which is just over a 6% increase over the 19 budget. And again, it includes the tax levy that was just adopted, and this is what was presented and recommended by the township residents that were in attendance of last week's meeting. And again, you guys have been through this at various workshops.
Yep.
Tom, doesn't that have to be a resolution, or am I mistaken?
Yes, it should be a resolution, and I don't know why it's not in here. So,
So, Mr. Parlor, Mr. Attorney, what's the
Well,
move
you
here?
can you walk them through a verbal resolution, Tom?
basically, the resolution would just outline the budget amount and say that it is for the 20 budget. So all I would say basically is you've had the different workshops. We started the budget process in March with the annual meeting, and we're now down to the 4,488,213.
Is it just pretty much confirming your memo that's in our
Yes.
packet?
Yes.
Okay. So if the board's comfortable with that?
Yes. So for this motion, though, we say what's here and then put it in the form of a resolution with either he or I making the motion? Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah, because seeing as all wasn't drafted that way, I'm assuming either one of you could do it.
Well, I'll move based on the staff review and recommendation, approve a resolution for the 2020 budget as outlined in your consideration for adopting the 2020 budget memo dated 12/16/19, and put it in the form of a resolution.
Mr. Kelly, does that work?
That's perfect, sir.
I'll second that.
All right, motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, what, Matt, you got next here? Transfer of funds?
Transfer of funds. This is, again, a resolution that we need adopted by the town board in order to transfer money from one fund to another fund. We do this every year as part of our budget process. A lot of these transfers are included in the 2019 budget. The first one we are asking is a transfer from the EDA fund of $7,500 to the general fund to help cover the cost of the annual Township Day Festival, and it'll be paid out of the EDA's loan payback account, and that was included in our 2019 budget. The second transfer, again, is from the EDA fund of $7,500 to the general fund to cover the cost of the historic town hall management by the Historical Society. They're kind of running the town hall for programs and that sort of thing, and charging the township, I think it's $1,500 or $15,000, and half of it's coming from the EDA fund. And again, it'd come from the loan payback fund of the account of the EDA and was included in our 2019 budget. The third transfer, again, is from the EDA, this time going to the 2011 C TIF bond. It's actually coming from the Comtal district, and it's in the amount of $97,375. And again, that was part of the 2019 budget. Our fourth transfer is for the annual seal coat project. It comes out of the general fund and goes into our capital improvement fund. That transfer for 2019, again, it was part of the budget, and it's in the amount of $81,500. And then the next two transfers are one is from the general fund's park and recreation fund of $200,000, and the other one is from the park acquisition fund for $6,856, and both are going to the park improvement fund for park improvements. And again, both of those were included in our 2019 budget. In the past, we've had transfers from the general fund to other funds to meet our fund balance policy of maintaining 45% of the next year's operating budget for cash flow and 5% for contingencies. And right now, it appears that with the way our 2019 actual revenues and expenditures are coming in, we'll have a fund balance somewhere between 47% or 49%, so we do not have any transfers for those. So we're still within our fund balance policy. But we got to get it back up to that 50% level and above before we make other transfers to other funds for excess reserves. So with that, you have Resolution 1951 before you to approve these transfers.
Questions, comments?
Yes, just for my education, is this similar to where we have been setting funds aside knowing we were going to need them at a certain point, specifically targeting certain areas that we knew we were going to spend them, and now we're just simply moving it from one account to another account to actually account for the expense?
Yes and no. Some of it is, as you say, kind of knowing we've got to set money aside. The transfers that are there that we're asking you to approve tonight are actually items that we've actually spent in 2019, but they're funded through other sources, such as the 2011 TIF bond has to get paid out of our bond funds, but the money is actually collected as part of the tax increment from the Comtal tax district, and so we need to move the money from the EDA fund over to the bond fund. And that's what all of these transfers are doing, is where we've budgeted improvements in one fund, in the case of the park, and are funding it from other town sources, and so we're moving that money. Likewise, the EDA funding the Township Day and the Town Hall Management, those are general fund expenditures, but the EDA shares in it, so they transfer the money over to the
So you're just
EDA.
syncing up your ledger accounts?
Yes.
Okay.
The fund balance policy of the general fund, as I said, is to keep 50% of the next year's operating budget as a reserve, because we want 45% because we don't get those tax settlements only come in July and December, so we need about 45% of that tax settlement to get us until we get that tax settlement in July. And then we like to keep 5% just as a contingency in case something happens, that, you know, a storm comes through and we gotta remove trees and are spending a lot of overtime and that sort of thing. But unfortunately, we're a little bit below that 50%, so we're not actually transferring money to set aside for future projects, where in the past, we had over 50% general fund and we transferred it to like the street improvement projects.
Okay.
Steve?
I have no questions.
I would like to publicly compliment our town finance officer. That game we play of hitting that 50% is a lot of bouncing around, and you do a fine job on it, so.
Thank you.
All right, hearing no other questions or comments, looking for a motion on this resolution.
I'll make a motion based on staff review and recommendation, adopt Resolution 19.51, approving the transfer of a certain funds from the town of White Bear.
I will second that.
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. All right, lastly, we have some fund balance classifications.
Yes, this is another item that we get to do every year. This is a GASB requirement for our bookkeeping. GASB stands for the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. They classify our fund balances into non-spendable, restricted, committed, or assigned, and then unassigned fund balances. And there's certain things that we have that fall into those first four categories, and in order for them to be in those categories, we need the town board to actually approve them. And so tonight, what we're asking is, in the general fund, we're asking for public safety to be assigned $3,401.72, and what that is our false alarm money, less any expenditures they spend on either the school carnival, or lately they've been spending it on a giveaway at Township Day. Last year, they bought a iPad to give away at Township Day. And so that's the balance of that fund. When we started charging for false alarms, the idea was that money would be set aside for the Public Safety Committee to use for public safety events. So that's why that is being assigned. And then in the Park Acquisition Fund, a number of years ago, we were given a donation to develop Rutherford Park, and that when the money was donated, it was designated for that park development, and so we need to set that up as a restricted fund balance, and that's in the amount of $6,385.36. And then in the EDA fund, we've purchased a number of lots, some which we are planning on reselling, and that is non-spendable because it's no longer in cash, but in land. And so that right now totals, the value there totals $1,345,756.29. And then finally, we've had money set aside for a number of years in the Stormwater Fund, which is falls into the assigned classification of $250,000 for drainage improvements along Stillwater Street whenever that gets done. So tonight, I'm looking for the board to approve those fund balance classifications as submitted. And again, that's required by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board.
Questions, comments? I know, Tom, over the years, these fund balance classifications, they really haven't changed much, have they?
The ones that change are the public safety one and the general fund, based on the number of false alarm revenue we bring in versus what the Public Safety Committee spends on the different events. And then it doesn't really change, well, in certain years it changes. We have to get the market value of the land that we hold in the EDA fund, and a couple of years ago we had to increase that considerably over what it was on the books, and so that one took kind of a big jump 2-3 years ago, but the last couple of years it hasn't really fluctuated that much.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Nope.
So do I have a motion on the fund balance classifications?
I will move based on staff review and recommendation to approve the fund balance classifications as set out in the memo.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right, our last item here on the agenda is the electrical inspector services. I know our clerk treasurer had to make a
Depart.
hasty retreat. He left his briefcase, though. Is that?
I get to take that.
So, Tom, you gonna go over this for us?
I don't know that I really can. I guess I haven't been too involved in that, but I'll kind of give you the background on it. Our electrical inspector is retiring at the end of the year, and as Pat mentioned earlier tonight, we did do an RFP for to replace the electrical inspector, and they received just one proposal from Tocal Inspections, and he does inspections for Vadnais Heights, Arden Hills, Shoreview, Roseville, and then, of course, it sounds like we're not the only ones with this problem, so it sounds like White Bear Lake and Gem Lake are also going to hire him for their services. With that, there is in your packet the RFP, there's a copy of that. A copy of the typical permit application for electrical, and then kind of examples of the homeowner contractor worksheet that is included, and then copies of his insurance, and then the copy of the contract, and there's also, I believe, a revised contract in your supplemental packet. And I believe the town attorney has gone over the contract, I believe.
Yeah. Do you have the revised?
Just, yeah, I was gonna say, just on,
Here, I can give you my
I
copy.
don't have a paper copy.
I don't have paper.
Just a couple of things that in the packet is background and responsibility. Mr. Kelly is correct. He does do a number of electrical inspections for other communities, and our research indicated that they're very satisfied. One of the revised contracts, this is what I was looking for, and I've had a chance to review it in other cities. And if you look to subparagraph B about files, maintain own records outside of town office shall be allowed to be in full compliance with Minnesota chapter data practices. I think that's a very, very important item if we get asked about data practices, that they understand that they have the obligation under Chapter 13 to abide by that. It's also important that in the contract, he does one other thing. He refers to the responsibility of the city. This is in one of the floating documents. It should be the town. And he also refers to Exhibit A, which I presume is the resolution that will allow permit fees. We don't have a copy. What I would suggest is that that we have approved the contract subject to final review on Exhibit B. Finally, if you go to the second page of this contract, it talks about that he's a duly authorized representative. One of the interesting things in Tokol's standard form contracts, he doesn't put his address. So we'll make sure that's in there. Where is he? We know he's a Minnesota corporation. We know where he's out of and where the building is, but it doesn't specifically state.
It also doesn't give us his actual business phone number, because I looked through the whole thing, I couldn't find that either.
I thought he had some supplement.
He's got a cell number, which is only privy, I think, to the township, but I don't know if he gives that out.
Well, we'll clear that up. That's a really good point, because one of the things that what had me a little bit concerned, he's been around, he has a good reputation, but, we're on fine, we look at these a little bit tighter, and, the first thing I saw was, well, there's no business address, or no, he's a Minnesota corporation, but we understand that we should have an idea, and we'll put that as a supplement that he advises us. Basically other standard language about formatting. So the supplements, in the supplement materials, it's pretty good. I mean, these were areas, when I looked at it, got the assignment to come out today, I thought, this should be in here, and obviously it is, so good job.
Actually, I went to his website to get that information.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because he gives us his website, and like I said, some information, but I was a little, I've known our previous inspector, well, in fact, he's still on the job till the first, but Jim Mennefeld's been with the township for, boy, as long as I can remember. But when I called Jim to talk about replacing him, he had given me a couple of names, but Pete Togel was way up high on his list of recommendations. So even though we only got one RFP, I feel pretty confident that we've got a qualified inspection company, and like I said, he's working this whole area, so. And he also has 3 inspectors that work with him, which is kind of nice, because Jim has always been by himself. So it was a little bit of a strain on him when a lot of inspections come up. So this may be a little bit of a benefit for the township, so.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, that I'll tell Chad about is that if he has other inspectors coming out, we should have notification. who's on his team.
Yeah, 'cause I think there was at least 3 besides him.
That you've checked the websites are very good.
Does there need to be any kind of comment made that we did only receive one response to our
Yeah,
RFP?
if I may, Mr. Chair, I think that this is, and Mr. Kelly indicated, when you're a retired person, there aren't a lot of people out there, and it seems like it's very interesting. We're stuck with, one RF, you sent the RFP up, you did that well. Now you're balancing it out, that you have a response. Do you believe it's reasonable in the best interests of the township? One of the attributes that you have here, or one of the positives, is that this particular corporation does inspections for Shoreview, Little Canada, Vadnais Heights, Arden Hills, and it just, the list goes, Chaplin, and the list goes on and on. So you know that when you're evaluating bidders, that they're capable and competent in doing the business. So in answer to your question, you're fine. That's part of the things that you haven't made an analysis, and if you feel comfortable with it, it's good. And I don't think you're going to have other RFPs, because one of the advantages this corporation has, like you indicated, he's in the area. So he knows the terrain, he knows the environment, and we'll take a look and see how it works. Good question.
All right, do you have any questions, Steve?
No, I think covered them.
Anything else, Scott? All right, I gather, looks like staff wants us to do this in 3 motions.
Yes. I'll do the first one. Based on staff review and recommendation, approve the White Bear Township Consultant Service Agreement in the supplement with Tokel Inspections, Inc., effective January 1, 2020, to continue until terminated by either party upon a 45-day written notice.
Would you like that final attorney approval
Yeah.
added in there?
With final attorney approval for the township.
Subject to,
Subject to, yes.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I also move, based on staff review and recommendation, approve amendments to section 2-5 of ordinance number 54, fees and charges, which will establish the electrical permit fees by town board resolution. This change will allow us to make any changes to the fees easily without unnecessary publication of fees moving forward.
I will second that.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
And based on the staff review and recommendation, I'll move to adopt the resolution establishing the electrical permit fees in the town of White Bear.
I will second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, we now have a new building inspector as of January 1st.
Electrical.
Electrical, sorry. Oh, I didn't want to say it at the mic. All right, let's see, that concludes our agenda. We have no added agenda items. Item number 11 is open time. Pretty sparse. Anybody want to?
Want to speak?
Deb never does.
Either of you?
All right, item 12, I need a motion for receipt of agenda materials and supplements.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. And then I need a motion for an adjournment.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned at 8:28.